Welcome to episode 50 of Shane Talks 99. It is November 12th, 1999. We got four films to focus on this week, but truth be told, I'm going to breeze through the first three of them because I got a lot that I want to say for this fourth film. The fourth film is the one we're going to focus on because it's really the only one that matters, and I've got a real fun story to go along with it. So let's get going as fast as we can. First up, Pokemon was released in the US on this day. Pokemon was like subtitled like Mewtwo or something like Mewtwo's Revenge or I don't know, something like that. It was actually a 1998 movie that came out in Japan, was done and reworked for the American audiences. And like Pokemon was huge in 1999. Like I know it's huge now, like it's still pretty big. Like surprisingly, 25 years later, still pretty big. Which I guess is a thing for anime because like Dragon Ball Z's been around for that like long as that. I don't know. Anyway, Pokemon huge in 1999 in America. Like it was hitting big and everything like that. And like I know that even like today when I go and I hang out with like the mayor kids and whatnot, they are legit like opening Pokemon packs now. They're playing Pokemon Go. They're running around yelling like Team Rocket or whatever, and then like debating if certain characters can do certain things. And like Benny's telling them yes or no, and it's huge still to this day, and it was huge in 1999, and like that's where the craze first like became on my radar. The things were going on. So when this movie came out, like I said, like a year after it was released in Japan, I remember they did like a promo thing where there was this special Pokemon card, but like you could only get this Pokemon card if you went and watched the movie in theaters. So like I'm sure there's like millions of kids that got that card, but like the thing about it was so Jason and I were regulars at this comic book shop, and the dude that ran the comic book shop convinced us to do a little trading. If we gave him some of these Pokemon cards that were, at the theater and whatnot, he would, knock some certain money off of what we owed him for the comic books we were getting. And so it was a trade that we did. The statute of limitations has to be up for the fact that I stole some Pokemon cards from Clearwater, right? Like really hoping I don't get in trouble for this. But yeah, so every shift that I would work, a couple of those Pokemon cards would end up in my pocket. I'd take them to the comic book shop. I'd get some free comic books out of it. Because I mean, these Pokemon cards sold like crazy. Like they were like special. Like you could only get them at the movie theater. Like they didn't come in packs. And like I doubt they're worth any money now. Like I can't imagine that they're worth anything because there was literally like millions of them out there. I'm sure somebody somewhere has boxes of them still just laying around because they worked at the movie theater and took this box thinking it was going to be worth money and they were never able to sell it. So, like, I don't know. Again, statute of limitations is up on this, right? Like, I can't get in trouble for admitting to that. Okay, right? Cool. All right. So, the movie itself, never saw it. I don't know if it's any good. I do know that they changed a lot of stuff from the American release or like from the Japanese release to when it came out in America like this villain Mewtwo. I guess he was like a much more empathetic villain, like in the original Japanese version. I guess like when you watched it, you understood why he kind of went psycho crazy and killed a bunch of people and did some bad things. Like I guess it's just something that the audience really kind of better understood his motivations and things like that. I guess when it came over to America, the producers was like, "Nah, we need to make this guy a villain. Like, we need a bad guy villain." So, like, a bunch of dialogue was changed, a bunch of scenes were changed, to basically just make him evil and make him like a pure evil villain. Which I fully support that. But I guess the Japanese were just way ahead of us, like they usually are, because nowadays you can't watch anything without having to have a villain origin story to prove to me why he's not really a bad guy. He's just really misunderstood. And I mean, it sounds like that's what they did, what the Japanese did with Mewtwo when they first made this movie in 1998 before it got shipped over here. And I mean, that's not how America would do it now. I mean, producers everywhere are like, "Oh, it's a bad guy. Well, we're gonna make him a bad guy you can relate to, so that you actually like this bad guy." Like, there's no pure evil villains anymore. Like, I mean, hardly. Like, I guess Art the Clown could be a pure evil villain, I guess. But like, as far as like cartoons specifically go, or like anything on Disney, like every single bad guy, I have to learn why they're not really a bad guy. They're just misunderstood. Another guy who's misunderstood. I don't know. That's not really a segue. He's not really that misunderstood. He just really either makes good movies or bad movies. There's nothing to misunderstand about Luc Besson. Like, because Luc Besson has made some movies that I absolutely love. He did La Femme Nikita, he did Leon, he did The Fifth Element, and then like he went on to like write and produce like the whole Transporter series with Jason Statham. Wrote and produced District 13, which is an absolutely amazing film. Got a kind of crappy Paul Walker remake. Man, it's not even crappy, like just a subpar Paul Walker remake called I don't know, District B13. I can't just Escape from B13, something like that. Anyway, District 13 is an absolutely amazing movie. So like Luc Besson has done some really great stuff. Sadly, Luc Besson has also made a lot of crap that I don't like. Like he has a very extensive resume, and he's like a really good idea man, but then also just like I think he's churning out too many things too fast, and like he's probably got some like ghostwriters helping him with stuff that just are not up to par with Luc Besson stuff. So the Messenger was his film that was released in 1999, and it's kind of like a period piece biopic on Joan of Arc, which I mean, it already had a biopic going against it. It already had like a period piece, like like Robin Hood and stuff like that. But like, I got to be like in the mood for it, and I definitely was not in the mood for it in this movie. So like, well, from what I read about this movie this past week, I guess he really kind of just didn't care about being like factual with anything. Like he took some stuff that like really happened to her in real life and embellished it and changed it for obviously Hollywood and cinema. And who knows what was real back then, since there was a lot of like, we can't really trust a lot of the narratives from back then because you know I mean you can't really trust narratives nowadays either. But I mean, who knows how much stuff was written about Joan of Arc back then is real, and then so he just kind of took it, did his own thing, made up a bunch of stuff. I guess there's a lot of stuff in there that's not real and never happened, but I guess there is some stuff in there that that did happen that I don't know. Some journalists said that they were proud of him for including a couple of things because they it had never been included in any other telling of Joan of Arc in the past. So cool for him for that. But again, didn't care about the movie, didn't like the movie, zero interest in going and revisiting the movie. I literally remember hating this movie, not in the mood to put myself through that again, especially right now because there is just way too much other more important shit going on in life right now. So did not care about rewatching this movie. I think I remember some of the fight scenes being okay. I think there was some pretty big battles in it that were all right. Like, if I remember, like, so I did rewatch the trailer. I rewatched the trailer for everything this week just to have it all fresh in my head to try to remember what I could about any of these movies. But like, um, it looks beautiful at sometimes. Like, there was stuff in it that looked kind of cool, but I don't know. The movie stars Mila Jovovich. She had just come off doing The Fifth Element with Luc Besson, so I think like expectations were really high for this movie. They did not come anywhere near my expectations for it. John Malkovich is in this movie, who just 2 weeks ago we talked about him being in his own self-titled movie, being John Malkovich. Dustin Hoffman, Faye Dunaway, Vincent Cassell, Cheche Carriot, and Desmond Harrington are all in this movie. So great cast. Like he put together a great cast. I just wish the script and plot and how it was delivered was anywhere that was worth watching or enjoyable. I didn't care about it. I don't really ever want to go rewatch it. Third movie. I'm not the demographic for this movie at all. It's a movie called Anywhere But Here. It's a movie that I constantly get confused with the 2000 film Where the Heart Is, and it's only because Natalie Portman stars in both of them. Yes, Queen Amidala herself has another film that came out in 1999, Anywhere But Here. Um, but again, this and Where the Heart Is are just so interchangeable, and I didn't care about either one of them very much. And again, I understand. I'm not the target demographic for this movie. Like, this is a movie that, a 16 or 17-year-old girl needs to watch with their mom so they can kind of understand each other and understand why mom's crazy and why I'm rebelling against her and how they need to like coexist. And like, it's fine for all of those things. It again is just not something I was able to emotionally connect to. I didn't really care about any of the characters the first time I saw it. As soon as I rewatched the trailer, I was like, oh yeah, I remember this movie now. It's not Where the Heart Is. And I was just like, yeah, there's just not anything in that movie that made me want to go, you know what, I should try to find time in this crazy busy week where I'm dealing with a lot of other stuff to actually sit down and watch this movie. So I didn't. Like I said, it's a mother-daughter flick. It's definitely good for moms and daughters to watch together, probably. It also starred Susan Sarandon as Natalie Portman's mom, Sean Hattasay, who is in the 1999 adjacent film The Faculty, is in this movie. John Deal and Carol Lynch are in this film. huge cast of like female supporting characters here. Ashley Johnson, Elizabeth Moss, Thora Birch are all in this film. And then I need to give a special shout out to Heather McComb, who is in this movie. Heather is the sister of one of my friends named Jennifer McComb. Jennifer McComb, I always love seeing her on screen, especially because Heather and Jennifer did a lot of stuff in the 90s. So when I'm watching stuff that they're showing up in, it's usually because I'm in a great nostalgic mood and I'm catching up on an episode of Dawson's Creek or an episode of Saved by the Bell or the Generation X movie that was on Fox. Um, a lot of times when the Macomb sisters are around, they did some other movies as well. Like these are the things from my childhood that bring me happiness and joy. So um, I would rewatch this movie just so that I could see Heather in it. In 1999, I did not know Jennifer, so I was not keeping an eye out for her sister in stuff. So yeah, I'd probably give it another watch if I ever found the time and I didn't have so much other stuff going on right now, just so I can try to see where Heather is in the movie. All right, breeze through all that. Let's get to the main attraction. We're going to talk about Dogma. Kevin Smith's fourth film came out this week, and like there's just so much to unpack with this. So let's get going here. April of 1999, I was introduced to Kevin Smith. I was working at Clearwater Crossing in 12 at the time, and we hosted a Gen X film festival. Two of my managers, Jason Richardson, Devin Klaus, they put together this film festival, and for 5 weekends in April, they showed a total of 10 different movies that were all like Gen X movies. And Clerks, Mallrats, and Chasing Amy were each involved with those weekends. And it was my first introduction to all of the movies. I'd heard of the movies before I started working at the theater, but I had never gone out of my way to watch them. They were indie, they were art house. Like until 1999, that wasn't the kind of stuff that I was getting into. And then my life changed. My life literally changed forever after I watched those three films in April of 1999. And like if you know me, you know I have an addictive personality. You know when I like something, I like something. And I kind of go overboard with how much I like something. And that's what 1999 was with Kevin Smith. I was all over the News Askew website. I was all over reading about what was going on with Dogma. I was all over knowing what was going on in his next project, all that kind of stuff. Just soaking in everything Kevin Smith that I could on the internet. And like I was counting down the days until Dogma was going to be released. And then we get a little more than a week before the release. I'd say probably like 10 days. I don't know. I know it was more than a week ahead of time, but I can't remember exactly the day. I got a phone call. I got invited to a super secret, late night screening of Dogma. Because here's the thing, back in the 90s, there was a lot of press screenings and press stuff that would happen a couple of weeks before a movie was actually released so that the critics would have time to watch the movie and write their review. Because back in the day, things were not as fast as they were now. You still had to like go into an office and type things on a computer and print it off for your boss to read. So it's not like now where they could, show you something a day before and then you'd still have time to write it and upload it to the internet. Like that's not like things were a much slower process back in 1999. So before Dogma came out, there was this super secret press screening that was happening here in Indianapolis. And normally for these press screenings, the film cans show up and they've got these padlocks on them and they've got like a 3-digit code on it. And then somebody from the studio would call you like 2 hours before the movie was supposed to play. Like, so if it was like a 10 a.m. screening, you'd get the phone call at like 8 a.m. and they'd be like, 123 is the code. And then you would open the code, open the film cans, build it up as fast as you could to have it ready um, to show the critics. And then like it was always, a catch-22 thing when they did that because if there was any missplices or anything like I talked about before, I mean, they weren't fixed before. Like you have to have somebody running up to the theater to adjust it. Usually we'd have a projectionist that was watching the movie from the booth just in case that happened. They could fix it really quickly. Um, with the Dogma one, those film cans showed up the night before and they were unlocked and they were good to go. So at Castleton Arts, this super secret screening that was not supposed to happen before the critics were going to watch it ended up happening. And I got invited to it. And that was a big deal. And it was even more of a big deal. We got a tangent away real quick because back in the late 90s, when the internet was in its infancy, there was a lot of us film nerds that were using various websites to go on and write our reviews of movies. And all those websites, if you were the first person to scoop a review, like that was super cool. Like, oh, I'm the first person that's writing a review about Dogma. All of you can suck it because I've already seen Dogma. Ha ha ha. Kind of like what happens in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back when they go to movies and that happens. So anyway, um, so yeah, so seeing Dogma early was huge. And again, not that I went and did anything, but there were multiple news websites where that's how people acted. And so it was a big deal to be able to see something and then, essentially brag about it, humble brag, however you want to like look at it. But like to put something online before anybody else and be like, haha, I've seen the movie that all of you guys are excited to see. That's going to become important to the story here in a minute. So it was the night before the press screening here in Indianapolis, Castleton Arts. Prince shows up, go and watch it. Like I think we started it at like midnight, got out at like 2 a.m. Like it I don't even know where to go with the story now. So watch the movie. I was a huge Kevin Smith fan, and I am still to this day a huge Kevin Smith fan. And a lot of the people that were at this Castle Nara screening were also super Kevin Smith fans. And so, like, it happened. It was epic. We all had a really great time together. Like, it was. I was sitting in the exact same theater where I've told the story about watching the Blair Witch Project and being scared shitless back in like May of 1999. I sat in theater too, and I watched Dogma with a bunch of my friends who were all big Kevin Smith fans, and it was an amazing experience that night. We're all laughing, we're all having a good time. We all go home. I wake up the next morning, and that's when things get bonkers. In November of 1999, Jason and I were deep into writing our first film, Consternate. So all of my free time was spent at the Castleton Arts Theater so that him and I could write out plots, write out dialogue, write out things on notebooks. And then I would take those notebooks home and I would stay up super late every night typing the absolutely terrible first draft of the script that, thank God, was rewritten. And we had some, amazing cast members that definitely improved on the shitty dialogue that I wrote. So anyway, I went to Castleton Arts that day and the mood was different. I walked in and it was just, I could tell something was off. So I find Jason. I'm hanging out with Jason, and he's in this super serious mood. Like, what's up, dude? What's going on? Like, I can't figure it out. Like, I can't get a vibe off of him. And then he's like, dude, we gotta have a serious talk. And I'm like, okay, like, what's up? He proceeds to ask me if I went online and talked about the screening from the night before. And I'm like, super defensive. No, absolutely not. I know the rules. I know not to do that. Why would you think that I would do that? Well, it turns out that in the middle of the night on a website called Ain't It Cool News, uh, a review of Dogma went up. A review that specifically mentioned being in Indianapolis, specifically mentioned the movie theater that it was shown at, specifically mentioned it was an after hours screening. Like, literally everything that you are not supposed to do when you attend these screenings, somebody did. And like I'm a little offended, but not really offended. But like the fact that anybody would even think that I would. Okay, so like yeah, okay, maybe it would be possible that I would do that review, but to call out all of the details that this person gave, I would absolutely never do that. So like, not little offended, but understandably why people would think that. And so like, but like I'm a huge keeper of secrets. Like in my life, like I have kept a lot of secrets. I've been involved with a lot of secretive things where I've had to keep secrets about stuff. I've seen stuff or known stuff or been privy to stuff, and I've had to keep my mouth closed for an extended period of time. Like NDA level stuff that I've been involved with where I can't talk about it, for months after certain things happen. So I understand secrecy. I understand privacy. I understand, the covertness of some things in this world. So somebody would be like, Shane broke cardinal rule number 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 by mentioning the screening, telling where it was, yeah, telling all these specific details about it, which is mind-boggling. But at the same time, like I'm not upset that anybody thought it because again, I had that huge persona. I had that, I want to be the first to see everything and stuff like that. So like it turns out that there were a lot of people in general cinema who thought that it was me. Like, so we previously talked about these websites, and I just mentioned Ain't It Cool News, and Ain't It Cool News was a huge popular website in the 90s for film and television. And like, you would go on there and you would read all the rumors about like who's signed on to what movie, who's directing what movie next, what who wrote what script that just got picked up by what studio. Like, it was literally where you would go for all the rumors about everything that was happening in Hollywood. And it was where people would go and write these reviews, like the one that went up about Dogma. And it was, again, like a bragging thing, like, haha, I've seen this movie way before you guys. So here's the other really cool thing about Ain't It Cool News is it has an extensive and amazing database. Like, I was able to go back to November of 1999 and look up a bunch of articles. Now, the downside of the problem, it's not even a problem. Like, the sad part about that story is I could not find the specific article about this event that I'm telling you about. And I wish I could, just so you could fact check me and say, okay, here's the article, here's the things that were said, here's proof that Shane's not making this story up. But Jason will vouch for me. There's a lot of other people from General Cinema that will vouch for me at that time. Um, but yeah, I went through and I combed through every article I could find about Dogma. I went through every article from that was posted in November of 1999 to try to find where this screening was mentioned, and I couldn't find it. So I don't know if a part of the website, gets flushed away after a certain amount of time, or since it was a user and not somebody that was like affiliated with the website that wrote it, maybe I was just not looking in the right place for it. Nonetheless, I could not find the article, and I would have loved to have been able to link to it so you could click on it and be like, wow, this is what Shane got accused of doing. So, anyway, the culprit was eventually figured out, and it was proven that it wasn't me, which is good because I found out that I was on a very short leash about getting like fired. Like, I was about to lose my job over this and literally almost lost my job because of something that somebody else did. Like, I don't remember who it was that had my back. I don't remember who it was at Clearwater that was like, let's calm down and not fire Shane over this before we actually prove that it's him. And then like it was eventually figured out, and somebody admitted to doing it. Somebody who actually wasn't an employee of General Cinema, somebody who was a boyfriend of somebody who was there, who did not understand the rules about the event that he was being invited to. So yeah, it was very nice to clear my name after being listed as public enemy number one for General Cinemas for at least a day. Um, but yeah, so whew, I did not lose my job, at least at this point over that. I lost my job a little bit later for something completely unrelated to this. But like, and again, like I don't blame the people that thought I was responsible for this because I wasn't the best person in 1999. Like, as much as I love talking about 1999, I was kind of a piece of shit back then. I was very much into drugs and alcohol, very much was bipolar in attitude, and like had a lot of issues. And like I said, I wanted to be the guy that like got the scoop on everything and everybody and stuff like that. So it's not out of the realm of possibility for anybody to think that I could have done it, but I knew better. I didn't do it. And yeah, so that is the insanely long story about the Indianapolis free press screening fiasco and how I almost lost my job because of somebody else. So now let's talk about Kevin Smith's fourth film, which features Linda Fiorentino playing a character named Bethany. It is a woman who ends up going on a religious crusade with Jay and Silent Bob after Alan Rickman shows up and explains to her that Matt Damon and Ben Affleck are two disgraced angels who have figured out a loophole to get back into heaven. And if they do so, that's going to end up basically making a paradox, which will prove that God is not perfect, which will then, in their theory, end the earth. It'll kill everybody. It'll be the end of days. It'll be all of that. It proves that God is fallible, and if God is fallible, then like the whole universe that He built can't exist, and all this other stuff. So throughout the course of their journey, they meet up with Chris Rock, who plays the 13th Apostle Rufus, who was completely written out of the Bible because he was black. They also run into a stripper named Serendipity, who is like a muse to people on Earth. She's, I guess, like another kind of fallen angel type thing where she's a stripper, but she, inspires men to do good work. And that's played by Selma Hayek. We've also got Jason Lee in this film. He plays a antagonist, another demon angel thing named Azrael. George Carlin plays a priest in this movie, and the musician Alanis Morissette, huge in the 90s, also plays God in this film. So that is an absolutely bonkers and amazing cast. I mean, there's all kinds of cameos in this movie also. Like, I'd be here for another 15 minutes listing off all the cameos of other Kevin Smith people that are in this movie or other famous people that are in this movie. Carrie Fisher has a cameo in this movie. Like, so much stuff that goes on in this film, and like when I first saw the movie, I will 100% admit it was my fourth favorite Kevin Smith movie at the time. And it's not that I hated it, I loved everything about his first three films that I didn't relate to this one in the same way. Clerks, Mallrats, Chasing Amy. I love those movies because those were the first time I ever felt like I watched a movie where it was literally as if somebody just wrote down the dialogue between me and my friends. Clerks, you've got two best friends who work in retail together and spend the whole day talking about movies and comic books. Mallrats, you got two best friends hanging out at the mall all day, talking about movies and comic books. And then you got Chasing Amy, which is still to this day my number one all-time absolute favorite Kevin Smith movie because you have a main character who is crushing on a girl, making some stupid mistakes while he's crushing on this girl. And like I just related to that. I related to being in a relationship, being insecure, and pushing away the girl that you really like. So um I really like his first three movies. I relate to all of them. I've never gone on a religious crusade with poop demons and all kinds of other stuff like that. So I like Dogma, and in no way let me lead you to believe that I don't like Dogma. I think Dogma is a great movie at that time, and I mean it would still fall like behind those three in the movies of Kevin Smith that I like, but it's still so fun. It's still such a good time. It is still an amazing ride. Ben and Matt specifically are absolutely amazing in this movie. This is the movie that introduces movies to us, like the movies restaurant where Dante and Randall are going to end up working at in Clerks 2. Like, so Kevin Smith has his original New Jersey trilogy, but like Dogma is probably the moment where he literally was like, I'm going to start creating my universe. I'm going to create the stores and the restaurants and the things that are going to carry on for the next 25 years in all of my movies. I think I just said movies in all of my movies, but I mean in all of my movies. Like in all of his movies moving forward, I'm pretty sure movies gets mentioned or is in some way a part of them. Like it's all over all of his aside from like Tusk or Red State or I can't remember if I think it might even be in Yoga Hosers, I can't remember, but like movies was like a purposeful spoof of Disney, whose parent company was Miramax, who produced this film at the time. Okay, well, I just said the bad word Miramax, so let's go ahead and just address this. We got a long story to tell about addressing this. Miramax produced this film. They got huge blowback and a lot of hate mail from the Catholic Church because of the concept of a comedy that with a poop monster before it had ever been seen by anybody. So Disney decided to force Miramax to sell the film. Well, when they decided to sell the film, Miramax just sold it literally to Harvey Weinstein. Harvey Weinstein bought the film for himself, licensed it to Lionsgate so that Lionsgate could distribute the film here in the United States, but Harvey Weinstein kept sole possession of the movie. Like the movie was his. Like he himself, not as a company, owned the rights to this movie. It was this and one other movie. I can't remember what the other one was, but when Miramax folded, sold their library, did all that kind of stuff, there was two movies that weren't included in the Miramax library because Harvey Weinstein personally owned them. And that's been a huge point of consternation over the past 25 years for all Kevin Smith fans because since he owns the rights to these movies and since all the stuff that he's been going through in the last few years, Dogma is not available on Blu-ray. There's never been a Blu-ray release, and Dogma is not available to stream on any streaming service or purchase on any digital format. So, like Apple, like you can't go on there and just buy Dogma right now. You can't go on Netflix and stream it. Like you can go on YouTube and you can watch a bootleg version that somebody else put up there, which may or may not someday come down. But like, let's be honest, I don't really feel like Harvey Weinstein has a lot of people working for him right now anyway, but that are searching YouTube to find, websites to put up copyright claims against. So, and at this point, it's not like it even matters. What matters to me is I want to own Dogma digitally. In my Apple library, I own every single film Kevin Smith has ever made. Yes, I own Tusk. Yes, I own Yoga Hosers. Yes, I own Red State. I own every single. Yes, I own the Clerks animated series. Yes, I own Catch and Release because Kevin Smith has a small bit part in it. Yes, I own all of his stand-up specials. I own everything Kevin Smith has ever done and made digitally except for Dogma because it's not available. And I want that. I'm a completionist. I need it. And it's a 1999 film. How can I not? I mean, I own the special edition DVD of it. I've also got the regular edition DVD of it, but I can't wait for the boot that is coming out because yes, Hallelujah, praise Buddy Christ. Kevin Smith has got the rights back to Dogma. It's supposed to be finalized by next year. Um, Kevin Smith on his podcast has told the story multiple times about how over the years he has been trying to buy it back from Harvey Weinstein. He's had some other studios try to give him help, $1 million here, $2 million there. They've gone to him, and Harvey has always just stood firm at the price of he wants $5 million for the movie. Now, Kevin Smith has announced that it's been settled, but he has that amount and not announced how much it was settled for. So I don't know if they met somewhere in the middle of the two and the five. I don't know if Harvey was finally broke and was like, okay, I'll take the two. I don't know if Kevin finally found somebody who was like, fuck it, let's give you $5 million so you can own your movie that you want. However, it is, whoever is involved, whatever group of people have helped Kevin Smith in 2025, he will once again own Dogma. He has announced that there will be a Blu-ray release of it. He has announced that he is planning to take the movie back out on tour. So that, like, a lot of times when Kevin Smith releases a new movie, he takes it out on tour. He shows it to an audience, and then does a Q&A afterwards. Sounds like we're going to get one of those in 2025, which is just super disappointing because, like, I wish it was happening. I wish it happened this year because, like, this year's the 25th anniversary of Dogma. It would have been a great time for him to be able to do all this stuff. Let's celebrate 25 years of Dogma. But I'm just as happy to go see a 26th anniversary screening of the movie. That's fine by me. I just wish it would have all been worked out before this. I wish it would have been worked out years ago so that it would be in my collection right now and I'd have the Blu-ray. It is what it is. I'm just happy that it's coming next year. So that's Dogma. That's the good. That's the bad. That's the story about how it almost, cost me my job. That's the story about how Kevin Smith finally got the rights back to it. I mean, there's an amazing documentary that I'm pretty sure you can stream on YouTube that is on this special edition Dogma DVD. Um, just kind of talking about all of the stuff that went on behind the scenes. Talks about Kevin Smith going and protesting his own movie in his hometown. Really funny story there. Great movie. And it's really funny because whenever I talk to the majority of my friends about Kevin Smith, a lot of my friends tell me that they find Dogma to be their favorite movie of his. Now, not necessarily that they think it's his best movie. I've definitely had conversation with people that have admitted that, Chasing Amy is probably the best thing he's ever written. But as far as a movie going experience and what they enjoy, they think Dogma is his most fun film. And I can't argue that. It is a lot of fun. It is definitely not what I was expecting for his fourth film. It was definitely different from what, I had built myself up to love about Kevin Smith and his characters. But that's not a bad thing in any way. It's always like that's the great thing about Kevin Smith's career is he's always just done whatever he thought would be interesting to do at the time, whatever he thought might challenge him at the time is what he would do. Um, so again, to all my friends that think Dogma is their favorite movie of his, I fully support that because it's a 1999 movie.